Breaking news, friends, August 6th, and sensational updates. An exclusive insider report after Putin's 3-hour meeting with Witkov at the Kremlin. Urgent. Putin is ready for a truce. There are details of the deal. Donald Trump's first reaction, Ushakov and Dmitriev have revealed sensational details. There was, well, a very useful and constructive conversation. The Ukrainian crisis. And the second topic is the prospects for possible development of strategic cooperation between the US and Russia. We will discuss all this hot off the press with the well-known journalist Dmitry Gordon right now.
Hello, Dasha, and greetings to all our esteemed viewers.
The latest news, Kirill Dmitriev. Thank you for all your kind wishes for a successful visit to Moscow. Dialogue will prevail. The American and Russian flags. That's what Kirill Dmitriev wrote after the 3-hour meeting between Witkov and Putin. I take it, what does this indicate, Dmitry Ilyich?
It could indicate maybe, I can't say for sure yet, I want to hear an official statement. It could indicate that Putin has surrendered. It could indicate that, or it might not indicate anything at all. Why should we try to read tea leaves? As for what Dmitriev wrote, who knows what he meant by that? We need to see a statement from Trump, and we need to see a possible statement from Putin. And of course, we need to see a statement from Volodymyr Zelensky. Because I want to remind you, before the negotiations, on the eve of the talks between Putin and Witkov, Putin spoke with the president of Ukraine, Zelensky. And that's actually a very important point. That means they were coordinating a unified position for the negotiations between Witkov and Putin.
The Kremlin has summed up the results of the meeting between Putin and Witkov according to the Kremlin. The conversation that took place was constructive. At the meeting, Putin and Witkov discussed the Ukrainian crisis. This is a quote, of course, from Russia. Putin conveyed certain messages to the US regarding the Ukrainian issue. Corresponding messages were also received from President Trump. They also discussed prospects for the development of strategic cooperation between the US and Russia. End of quote, Dmitry Ilyich.
Well, Trump keeps tempting him with money, tempting. It's clear, but he's doing the right thing. Well, he tells him, I'll put it simply, he tells him, you're an idiot, why are you fighting? Why are you so fixated on Ukraine? Look, we've got a huge amount of work here. We could make so much money together, we wouldn't even have time to count it. Let's make money. Are you crazy or what? Why are you like a stubborn ram so hung up on Ukraine? Just let it go already. Let it go. You've conquered some territory. Take a break. Let it go. Let's make money, Trump tells him. And Putin says, I need to conquer 4 more regions. They're written into our constitution. He replies, what are you talking about? Don't take me for a fool. What constitution? Just forget about it altogether. That's the kind of conversation they're having in plain streetwise language like at the showdown in the 90s, but of course keeping things somewhat proper. Delegations arrive, they exchange their, let's say, mandates, what they're authorized to say, and so on. So in reality, the conversation is straightforward. Dasha, several people who know Trump well have told me the same thing. Trump is a businessman. He genuinely does not understand and does not want to understand how in the 21st century, when such scientific and technological progress has swept through advanced countries, when artificial intelligence will soon be cleaning the streets, so to speak, instead of janitors, right? How is it possible in the 21st century to just stupidly kill people instead of making money together? Come on, seriously. People are already making money out of thin air. I mean, what is cryptocurrency? You just lie on the couch, watch the rates, and press the right buttons. Seriously, it's out of thin air. What else could it be? I know a lot of people who became billionaires from crypto. Billionaires from crypto doing nothing, just crypto, that's it. But they don't achieve anything, they don't invent anything, they don't chop wood, they don't saw logs, I don't know, they just don't do anything. All they do is use their brains and think. They lie on the couch, think, and the money just flows in. That's why Trump doesn't get it. How is that even possible? What kind of fool is this barging in there like that? Come on, well, you've already conquered part of it. Just back off already, you idiot. How much longer can this go on? How many more years are you going to keep fighting while the whole world is just thinking about how to make money? You're getting in our way now. So, well, we're watching, waiting for official statements.
Everyone says that the key problem with Putin, or rather with Trump, is that Trump thinks like a businessman, but he doesn't understand how dictators think. He tries to solve everything with money, but Putin isn't interested in money because he's already the richest man on earth.
Dasha, let's not make Trump out to be a fool.
He does a fine job of that himself. Right, Dmitry Ilyich?
No, I don't agree, dear Dasha. Let me try to prove it to you. Trump became president of the United States for a second time. A fool wouldn't become president of the US even once. That's one. Second, Trump became president for a second time while facing thousands of criminal cases. In other words, he's a real heavyweight, and he's nowhere near as simple as many try to make him out to be. Next, he doesn't understand dictators. He understands them perfectly well. Moreover, he even envies many dictators for being able to do things in their countries that he can't do in his own. And moving on. Not only does he try to influence with financial incentives, he also uses sanctions very effectively. Before Trump, I honestly can't recall a single US president who could say, if you work against us, you'll get these tariffs. Didn't hear that? Give them the tariffs. He acts quickly and decisively, and everyone is afraid of the tariffs, and everyone is damn scared to even argue with him. It's just not worth it. They're all thinking about how to butter him up, how to say something nice to him. Unbelievable. He put everyone in their place. Good for him. Good for him. Now look, you think he can't handle dictators? With the economic, financial, and military power of the United States, he can handle anyone? I'm sure of it. The moment has come when either America shows its power and strength, or America will no longer exist on the geopolitical map of the world. Because let me add, Trump is thinking about China all the time. And China is watching to see how things end, how it all ends with Russia. If Putin gets away with it, God forbid, the Chinese will get even bolder. If Trump gets his way, the Chinese will be as meek as lambs. That's what geopolitics is all about. As Mikhail Sergeyevich once said, that's where the dog is buried.
Dmitry Ilyich, regarding Witkov's visit to Moscow. Trump is demanding that Putin stop the war, agree to an air ceasefire, and right now Putin is trying to negotiate all the concessions. What was the purpose of that 3-hour meeting in the Kremlin between Putin and Witkov? And what should we expect?
Trump is not demanding an air ceasefire from Putin. No, Trump is demanding a complete end to the war, a full ceasefire. The air ceasefire, that's just something people are starting to make up, like now Putin will throw Trump a bone with an air ceasefire. Trump says it clearly. Stop the killing, stop the war, agree to a ceasefire, and then peace. Stop killing people. He says it plainly, unambiguously. What does an air ceasefire have to do with any of this? Witkov definitely brought these demands to the Kremlin. I want to remind you that the meeting with Witkov was initiated by the Russian side. It was Russia's request, send us Witkov. Yes, they could do that. Putin's approach is clear. He will drag things out, try to silence Trump with minor concessions so that Trump can say, yes, we achieved this as well. At first, they tried to silence Trump with prisoner exchanges. Exchanges are important in general, prisoners, the wounded, and the dead. Of course they're important, of course they are. And thank God that it happened. But the main issue is the ceasefire, it's peace. In other words, the main problem is the ongoing mass killings of people and the destruction of Ukrainian infrastructure. That's why the conversation can only be about one thing: stopping these hostile, malicious, aggressive actions. If Witkov doesn't get something from Putin, well, what does Witkov have to do with it? If Trump doesn't get a positive response from Putin to his appeal, Trump will turn on everything he can. I have no doubt about that. There will be no delays. I'll give him another 2. No, forget about that. Nothing will happen. It will only be, I made an offer, I did everything I could. We had good communication, we had good conversations, but after these talks, he went back to bombing Kyiv and other Ukrainian cities. He went back to killing people. He doesn't listen to the voice of reason. I made a final attempt. I told him, come on, end this. He didn't listen to me again. I warned, if he doesn't listen to me, I'll impose sanctions, I'll do this, that, and the other. And I go ahead and do it. And Americans will say, Our president is awesome. 87% of Republicans, well, according to the latest poll, say that Russia is an aggressive country and support Trump's policy toward Russia. Not appeasement of the aggressor, but punishment of the aggressor. 87% of Republicans. Trump has to look back. Any leader must pay attention to their voters, especially Republicans. That's why he will act tough, very tough. And does Putin understand this? Well, my first reaction is he does. And the second is, who the hell knows what he understands? I think he's already lost it. Because when I look at him, listen, Dasha, when he holds a parade in some St. Petersburg back alley, and when he accepts a little medal at the entrance of some factory, well, and when he sits with Lukashenko with that blissful, vacant stare like old ladies on a bench in some Russian village, out in the sticks somewhere, they just need to start singing folk songs. I'll tell you, I doubt his sanity. I think he's already lost his marbles. So if he's lost it, plus if he, did you just sneeze, Dasha?
That's true, yes, I did.
Bless you. Dasha never sneezes for no reason, friends. She didn't go silent at the truth. I'm telling the truth. So, plus I don't know what his friends, what are they telling him? Because when he's convinced that Russia's military machine will crush Ukraine, who is it that's coming to him with these reports? Those generals, those thieves and drunkards. When do generals ever tell the truth? Honestly, I want to ask. When? By the way, in all countries, they're prone to exaggeration in order to curry favor. That's just how the military machine works. We also have questions about our own generals' reports. I'll tell you more. There you go. But right now, I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about the Russians. That's clear. Listen, people are sitting on massive financial flows there, stealing like a feast during the plague. And for him, every day in office means additional millions of dollars. So when he comes to Putin, do you think he's going to report bad news? He'll say everything is fine, we'll win soon. Just a few more days, just a little more to steal. That's it. It's all very simple. There's no need to look for something complicated where things are simple. I actually like to start from simplicity. It's all very simple, they just want to keep stealing. They're probably giving him false information. He doesn't go online himself because he thinks the CIA is watching him through that little camera. So he doesn't go online. He doesn't really have any contacts who would tell him the truth. And who would tell him the truth anyway? That's why the guy lives in a parallel reality. That's the whole story. But the Americans are tracking everything closely, and so are the British and the Europeans. That's why I think the guy has gone too far. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. He's gone too far, and now the moment of truth is coming. In general, I suggest everyone keep a non-stop watch on the news. And the best way to do that is on the Dmitry Gordon Telegram channel.
Two of Rosneft's largest plants, the Ryazan and Novokubishevsk refineries, have halted operations after strikes by our drones. The Ukrainian armed forces are disabling railway stations, junctions, traction substations, and train convoys with tank cars are being blown up. And in Rostov, there's a fire at the Tatslinskaya station near Milerovo, an entire substation burned down. In Pulkovo and all across Russia, there's an aviation collapse. Flights are being cancelled. Moscow and St. Petersburg are paralyzed. And this is no longer just raids. This is the destruction of the entire military logistics system.
As you say, Dasha, things are burning here and there. I recall the words of a wonderful song by Alexander Ponomaryov, who is celebrating his birthday. The enemy's equipment is burning and blazing. Our dear Ukraine will prevail.
God, those are truly golden words.
It's burning and blazing, and it keeps flaring up. The Russian ship go hey hey.
Go to Dmitry Ilyich. This is the best start to our stream. Actually, I just saw that, first of all, Zelensky spoke with Maliuk the other day and said that we are preparing new special operations on Russian territory. Libokitin approved all the special operations. Now I look at them and they're all trembling and crying. So they were planning to go to Yerevan for the Lopez concert. 12 hours at the airport, 5 hours on the plane. They're sobbing, crying. Everything's at a standstill. Aviation collapse. We're hitting the railways, the junctions. Well, tell me how wonderful this is, Dmitry Ilyich. Well, this is just gorgeous.
Keep hitting them. You can't hit them enough. Of course it's wonderful. Of course it's fantastic. Russia must understand and realize the full gravity of what it has done in Ukraine. And our response should not just be proportional, but even greater compared to what fascist Russia has done. Of course, with the appearance of Ukrainian ballistic missiles, our response will be much more striking. Ukraine has ballistic missiles, and we are building up their potential. And moreover, I'll tell you this. If Putin doesn't come to his senses, or whatever he has instead of a head, then without a doubt the Germans will provide Taurus missiles, which will simply obliterate everything that needs to be destroyed. Well, it all depends on Putin's decision today. Whether he agrees to what smart people are offering him or decides to act tough. If he acts tough, he'll lose his horns. If he agrees, well, it's better for him.
Dmitry, now Bloomberg is starting to spread information that Putin might be ready for an air ceasefire. But all military analysts say that's not the case. He will never agree to that. He'll just keep dragging things out. This meeting with Witkov is just another stalling tactic from Putin.
Dasha, well, let's talk about the air ceasefire. What's my opinion? For the citizens of Ukraine who have been suffering from drones, KABs, and missiles all these years, is an air ceasefire a good thing or not? Definitely yes. Definitely a plus. But again, this doesn't solve the issue. So what is Trump talking about? About a full ceasefire and the establishment of a lasting, reliable, mutual peace. But an air ceasefire would only last until the first twist. That is, Putin will continue the war, will keep seizing territories. If not by one means, then by another, with a slow creeping advance. And how many more years will this go on? So what happens next? You can see that he wants to keep fighting.
Yes.
I understand. Just yesterday, I did an interview with Ramiz Yunusov, and he said something very interesting, something I kind of understood. But he put it very clearly. What matters is always the wording. And today someone sent me a map. Here's a map showing what Putin has conquered during this entire full-scale war compared to what he already had. Well, I must honestly say Adolf Hitler himself would have undoubtedly laughed heartily at him.
He shot himself, which is exactly what he did.
No, but really, he would have laughed at Putin. He would have told him, you're an idiot. You sacrificed over 1 million people from your own country. We're not even talking about Ukraine. You sacrificed over 1 million people, and this is all you managed to capture? And what are you hoping for next? That's why, of course, Putin understands that it's unlikely he'll be able to pass off what he's captured as a victory, so he wants to keep fighting. And besides that, he understands that a huge threat is the return of Russian fools from the front, people who are completely unhinged. These are convicts, all sorts of antisocial elements, the lumpen proletariat and so on, who have gotten used to making big money at the front. When they come home, where will they return to? Wooden barracks. That's why there are big questions. He doesn't want to end the war, but I'm sure Trump will force him to. I'm sure Trump has no other choice. No matter how well Trump may have initially treated Putin, Trump has no way out now, because if he doesn't put this scoundrel back in his place where he belongs, then the authority of the United States of America and Trump's own authority will be undermined. But it's no longer about Trump, it's about the United States. That is, if you are the most important country in the world, and they are, because the whole world keeps its money not in yuan or rubles, but for some reason in dollars. Well, some in euros, but that has nothing to do with Putin either. If you can't prove to Americans that you are the toughest, then no one else will listen to you, fear you, or do what you ask. But look, if you couldn't handle Russia, which is in a very bad financial, economic, and military state, well, in a really bad state. If you can't deal with Russia, then why should we listen to you? Why should we be afraid of you? You're not scary. Putin didn't give in to your ultimatums. That's why, for Trump too, the moment, the time. What will trigger the X moment? If he doesn't hit Putin hard right now, things with America are going badly. That's why the American establishment won't allow Trump not to hit Putin hard. So, as for Putin, it's all clear. Americans will just squeeze him dry and toss him aside. I'm just interested in the timing. The prospects are clear. I'm interested in the question of when this will happen. The sooner it happens, the better it is for me, for the Ukrainian people.
Dmitry Ilyich, regarding Trump, there's a certain insider tip. I'll share it with you, but a bit later. What I wanted to discuss with you is the oil.
You said it well. I'll share it with you now. I even tensed up, but a bit later. Right?
By the way, that's a life hack from Dmitry Ilyich. Dmitry Ilyich always says, Dasha, save the juiciest, most informative bit for the end.
Dasha, sometimes it's good to start with it too, I'll tell you.
Yeah?
Yes, but the way you do it is just fine.
Friends, take notes. These are life hacks from Dmitry Gordon.
If you can't, just remember them.
Yes! Don't forget to like and write a few kind words about our tandem in the comments. Ukraine will definitely win. We are the strongest nation. We have the strongest army. We will definitely destroy Russia. Dmitry Ilyich, let's get back to our discussion about destroying the oil industry. So, the oil industry. Two of Rosneft's largest plants, the Novokubishevsk and Ryazan refineries, partially suspended their operations after a drone strike back on August 2nd. So the strikes on the Ryazan and Novokubishevsk refineries mean the destruction of half the fuel processing capacity in two key regions. One plant has been completely shut down, while the other is operating at only 48%. This is already an economic operation, not a military one. This is what it means when we are now striking refineries so intensively, as well as oil depots in Sochi, especially Rosneft's oil depots. This will affect tanks, aviation, and refueling stations in the enemy's rear. I think this is a very successful story.
Yes, it will impact what you mentioned, but there is another point. If you have money, you fight. If you don't have money, you don't fight. The main component of Russian money is oil. The sale of oil, oil refining, everything related to oil. That's why the main blow should be dealt to Russian oil. As soon as the Russians are no longer able to earn as much money as they do from oil, their capabilities in this military situation will immediately decrease. Because pay attention to what Trump is doing. Trump is also playing with Russian oil right now.
Yes.
So that's why strikes on oil refineries are an integral part of inflicting damage on Russia. What is our objective? Our objective is to mess with this fascist pseudo-country. Just mess with them, plain and simple. Wherever we can cause trouble, we should do it. Blow things up, cut off, disrupt logistics, stop exports, and so on. Anything that harms them is good for us, because our goal is to make this nasty country stop its aggression against Ukraine.
Dmitry Ilyich, there's a historic record on the exchange. AI 95 gasoline has risen to 77,000 rubles per ton, according to the Rashists. They're crying about it. Gasoline reserves are at zero. And the key reasons were Ukrainian drone attacks on oil refineries, sanctions pressure, plus a surge in domestic demand. And here's the question. Can Ukraine now, together with Trump, the armed forces of Ukraine, completely paralyze troop movements through the economy and basically destroy the oil industry of Russia?
Well, it's hard to destroy everything, but it's a component. It's a series, a chain of actions that lead to a significant reduction of money for the Russian budget from oil sales. So here, first of all, there's the increase in production, the increase in oil extraction in OPEC countries. The more oil OPEC countries put on the market, the lower the price of oil will be. This is already a loss for Russia. They already have major problems with their budget. There's catastrophic underfunding there. This already concerns. You know, it's one thing not to spend money on repairing rusty pipes, on fixing boiler rooms, on demolishing dilapidated buildings, on elevators, on utilities. Yes, right now they're not spending on that. Everything is going to the military, to defense. But there's another point. Pensions still have to be paid, salaries have to be paid, and there are already delays in salary payments. Things are truly catastrophic in the vital metallurgical industry, in the crucial coal industry, in the extensive air transportation sector, in the vast Russian railways network, and basically in almost everything fundamentally related to the national economy. Conditions are indeed very, very bad. And here, firstly, it's the significant reduction of global oil prices by deliberately releasing a very large amount of crude oil onto the international market. Next, there are the comprehensive economic sanctions, which directly and severely affect Russian oil production capabilities and their overall energy sector. They only have this oil underground. They can't extract it without Western technologies, without Western components, without everything Western.
Yes.
That's why we need to take this into account as well. And of course, strikes on oil refineries. Of course. Well, I'll tell you that with long-range missiles, we might even see strikes directly on oil wells, on oil pipelines, on gas pipelines. Of course, but this is war. Anything goes in war. But what did they expect? No, we understand what they expected. They thought they would take Kyiv in 3 days, but they didn't get that. And what did they think would happen next? They'll destroy our stuff and we're just supposed to watch? Well, of course not. We'll destroy theirs, and then we'll see what happens. This war is doomed to stop anyway. Putin still won't be able to keep it going. As I repeat, it's only a matter of time. The time frame, that's the most important thing.
Dmitry Ilyich, a very important point is that Trump has now made a series of very serious statements. First of all, just yesterday, he said that oil prices, global oil prices, need to be lowered by another 10%, and then Russia won't be able to wage war. Nuclear submarines that are stationed near Russia. And the fact that our Ukrainian intelligence services have obtained secret schematics of the nuclear submarine Knyaz Pozarsky, data on its crew and vulnerabilities, suggests that together with Trump, Ukrainian intelligence could carry out a series of attacks on, for example, Russian Federation submarines. So what do you connect these three elements to?
To what I had previously said earlier, I would like to add something. We need to sabotage Russia in every possible area we can reach, from nuclear submarines to oil logistics and transportation. Wherever we can cause trouble, we should do so. This is war, I repeat, this is war. And in this war, I want to say Russia cannot win. That is out of the question. They are trying to win by military means, but they won't be able to win militarily. If the Americans become convinced that Putin isn't going to stop, well, they'll provide such weapons. And I'm not even talking about the economy, sanctions, or anything else right now. No, they'll give weapons that will wipe out Russia's entire military machine. Of course, there is no other way out for anyone. That's it. The talking is over. This stupid country doesn't understand words. Moreover, Russians are made in such a way that they only understand the language of force. A punch in the face to break their nose, that's what they understand. That gets through. But just talking, persuasion, that's all pointless. It does nothing for them. That's not how it works. Force works. America has understood this. Europe has understood this. There's no need to convince anyone anymore. No one needs to be asked to wake up anymore. Everyone woke up a long time ago. Germany is now ramping up its military power at such a pace, I have to say. And this country is capable of a lot. Remember the state Germany was in back in 1914 and then in 1933 to 1941. Both economically and militarily. What are we even talking about?
Dmitry Ilyich, there's a very important point here. When I talk to Americanists, every single one of them tells me, right now Congress is on recess. That's one. Yes, that's two. Right now Congress is on recess, so no one is going to vote for draconian sanctions against Russia at the moment. All Trump can do is impose sanctions himself, personally.
Yes.
Is that enough, Dmitry Ilyich? That's the main question.
Dasha, he has the majority. He'll impose them first, and then when everyone comes back from recess, they'll vote. It's a completely straightforward story. They're all ready. They're at the starting line. Graham Blumenthal, a bipartisan initiative, both Republicans and Democrats. They're even saying it needs to be even tougher. And they've made it clear, as soon as the president is ready, we'll sign it immediately. Everything has already been decided there.
Dmitry Ilyich, but here's an important point. Will that be enough? Is that his limit? You said that Trump would unleash all his might on Putin. Let's break down for our audience exactly what Donald Trump's full might means. I'm talking about submarines, Tomahawks.
Go ahead, go ahead. Tomahawks and Tamamyavki. So look, first of all, let's start with the economy. Imposing serious sanctions against Russia, cutting off banks and all that, and introducing sanctions against those who help Russia circumvent sanctions. Are you trading oil with Russia? It's not me saying this, it's him. You're trading oil with Russia, you're helping them kill Ukrainians, then take the sanctions. He says this directly to the Indians, to the people of India. He says it outright. You're helping Russia bypass sanctions? You're helping to kill Ukrainians? Sanctions, China. If you help, sanctions. From then on, everyone will have to survive on their own, because Dasha will be thinking, what's more important to me? Keeping the profits from buying cheap Russian oil or losing the American market, because that would cost me much more. Of course, Russia, goodbye. As the great Andrei Danilko sang, Russia, goodbye. Of course, it's America. Well, no one sides with the weak in this world. In this case, they side with the strong. That's economic influence. So, sanctions against Russia and against countries that allow or help Russia to bypass sanctions. And not just token, half-hearted or decorative sanctions, but real, concrete ones. Because we all understand that there are loopholes both in the US itself and in European countries that continue to trade with Russia. We understand that. Moving on. Second, the military component. The military component here is also as simple as can be. You want to fight Putin? Well, let us show you how to fight. We'll give Ukraine long-range missiles now. Tomahawks, though, I don't think it'll come to that, and it's not even necessary. Long-range missiles. How many F-16s do they have? 30 or 50, roughly speaking. 500 F-16s. They have tons of F-16s sitting in the deserts. Now, someone will say to me, you're so smart, but who will fly them? Here's my answer. Private military companies are now starting to actively recruit experienced pilots who are retired, those who have bravely fought on F-16s, and even those who haven't directly engaged in combat on F-16s, but are simply familiar with the F-16, having served extensively on these specific aircraft. These private military companies are primarily funded by NATO and various European nations. Recruiting 500 or 1,000 people worldwide is no problem at all, given the proper political, with the right political decision. So there are more than enough levers of influence. Right now, 500 F-16s. Is 500 not enough? 1,000 F-16s? How are you doing there, Putin? Still alive? Everything okay? Do you want to keep waging this war? 2,000 F-16s, 4,000 pilots. We have enough money. So is it Europe's money against Russia's money? And the Americans will get involved too. This becomes a matter of principle. This isn't just for show anymore. It's not a joke. It's not a game. It's not flirting with the aggressor. This is a whole different story now. This is a geopolitical issue. Who is stronger and to whom will people come to bow? That's it.
Dmitry Ilyich, Ushakov has already appeared quickly with some fresh news. Putin's aide stated that the Kremlin chief had a useful and constructive conversation with Utkov. According to him, two topics were discussed: the war in Ukraine and the prospects for developing a strategic partnership between Russia and the US. He added that Russia had sent all its signals and also received a signal from US President Donald Trump. Ushakov did not comment further on the talks, since Donald Trump is not yet aware of their results. Those are the statements.
Until I hear a statement from Trump, until I hear a statement from Putin, until I hear a statement from President Zelensky, I won't comment, because for now, it's all just some kind of echo. They pass something to us, we pass something to them. Yes, we know that. Both sides have already passed things along. Then nothing happened, because Putin can send a signal. I'm not ready to stop. That's also sending a signal. A decision and results. If, starting precisely from midnight today, or rather tomorrow, as the new day will have already begun, everything were to be completely stopped, and a genuine, comprehensive ceasefire were to truly come into effect, then, and only then, would I unequivocally say, yes, that is truly it. That would be the definitive resolution. But if it's just more half measures again, it's all for nothing. And for the dog, too.
Yes, most likely, without a doubt, Putin is not ready for a complete ceasefire.
I don't know, Dasha. I don't know. I can't say that he's not ready. I can't. Let's wait for the results. Anything is possible. If they're saying, see, there's an important phrase there, that they talked about mutual cooperation. Yes, but it's clear they offered him something, some kind of purchase. They definitely offered something where he saw big money for himself. Definitely. This is where we need to keep watching.
Dmitry, but for Putin, it's necessary to finish his summer offensive, which will most likely turn into a fall offensive. He simply can't stop advancing all this time.
Yeah, the only thing he can do is shoot himself in the foot. So what has he achieved with this offensive, during this offensive? Where are the results? It's laughable. Just look at the map of the territories captured since 2022. It's just not working out. This summer offensive, he doesn't have the manpower either. He's short on people too. Because I've been thinking about this, you know. A lot of coffins are coming back. There are a lot of coffins all over Russia. But let's say it doesn't really work that way, because you know what Russians say? Well, Vanya wanted to make some money. Vanya did make some money. Well, he died, but that was Vanya's choice. No one forced him, right? He did it himself, so no one feels sorry for Vanya. There's another thing, a huge number of people without arms or legs who came back from the war in Ukraine and have spread out across Russia. That's already obvious, and for the next person who thinks about going to the so-called special military operation, it really makes them think. So I might make some money, or I might end up dead, or I might end up like one of those wounded. And how do you live after that? So it's kind of a deterrent already, you see? But there's also a third point, the mass return of Russians who fought in Ukraine back home. They won't keep their mouths shut, these Russians. These people start talking about this and about other things too. They start telling others what is really happening in the war. This acts as a very strong barrier for those who are thinking of taking the risk and going to this so-called war, this so-called special military operation. They begin to discuss in detail how their commanders truly treat them, how they are often sent directly to the slaughter without proper consideration, and that the meager monetary compensation they receive is simply not worth enduring such horrific and demanding ordeals. They start talking about how, as it turns out, the Ukrainians have great equipment, and that Ukrainians often fight better than they do, and that the West is on Ukraine's side. And they start talking about the most important thing. I'm sure they say this. Yeah. They're asked, hey man, if you could go back to the time when you signed up, would you do it again? After all, the money is big. I'm sure that many, when they're drunk, say, no, and you shouldn't go either. I'm sure of it.
Dmitry Ilyich, to sum up, residents of Donetsk are complaining about the lack of drinking water. The water supply problems have been going on for 3 years, but this summer the situation has become critical. I think they're even drinking water from puddles now. What do you have to say about that?
Dasha, I want to clearly state that we need to be very precise and absolutely clear. There is an aggressor, specifically Vladimir Putin and the entirety of fascist Russia, and there are unequivocally victims. The victims are Ukrainians. It's Ukraine. The residents of Donbas, including those who waited for Russia and called for Russia, have ended up as victims. Sometimes I might, in the heat of the moment, say some harsh words because, you know, I'm angry too. I'm only human. You can understand that. Well, I get really angry, right? That's it. But right now I want to talk about what's most important. There is an aggressor and there is a victim. The aggressor is Russia and Putin. The primary victims are the innocent people of Donbas, including all the brave Ukrainians whom our army tragically couldn't protect back in the fateful year of 2014, and whom our state, unfortunately, also failed to adequately protect. They may have been genuinely mistaken in their beliefs, but they were undeniably left unprotected and vulnerable. So even those who are drinking water from puddles today in Donetsk are also victims, and we should treat them with compassion. After all, we still plan to bring them back. They will still be part of Ukraine. That's why I would approach this issue in exactly this way.
Dear audience, every week Dmitry Ilyich and I work for you discussing the most relevant military and political topics. Undoubtedly, the top topic is the meeting between Witkov and Putin and the consequences of that meeting. One and only Dmitry Gordon. Dmitry Ilyich, thank you very much, and see you again next week.
Thank you, Dasha. Let's hope that our next meeting...
Right. That's a teaser.
...will already be under conditions of a truce or maybe even peace. Let's hope for that. Do I believe in it? No. Do I hope for it? Yes. Glory to Ukraine.
Glory to the heroes, and according to your faith, so shall it be given to you.